Hey guys, welcome to the podcast. My name is Andrew Ellis. I am the owner of High Desert Realty. I've been in this business for about 15 years. I have directly helped about 500 buyers and sellers within Central Oregon. Indirectly advising with my agents, probably worked on about 1,000 transactions beyond that. My background is in sales, business management, business psychology. I've worked with a handful of small businesses as well in marketing and growth roles, depending on what needed to be done. My hope for this podcast is super simple. If you are not in the business, I hope to get you into the business better. If you are already in the business, I hope to get you better at the business. I want to talk today about one principle that shows up in 3 different ways within what we do. And my hope is to give you some specific actionable items that you can actually do something with. But in full disclosure, it's going to start a little fluffy today. The principle that I want to talk about is curiosity. Now, before your eyes and ears glaze over, curiosity, I mean, wanting to ask better questions, wanting to learn, wanting to improve. I also think that it has a pretty big leaning towards humility, but again, that's a pretty fluffy word. I do not in any way mean passive or timid, quiet, weak, anything like that. You might be able to come into the industry with some of those characteristics, but they will not serve you well. When I talk about curiosity, when I talk about humility, I'm going to specifically touch on 3 things. First is asking better questions with your clients. And I'm going to give you 2 really specific examples. Working with buyers, I hear this question in some form asked very early on all of the time. You're speaking with someone that you've never spoken with before. You can tell that they're thinking about buying a property in Central Oregon, and you might be tempted to ask, what's your price range? How much can you spend? Do you know what you want to spend? Tell me something about your money. Now, is that an extremely important question to have an answer to? Of course. Can you ask it within the first conversation? Absolutely. I say this all the time. It's case by case, person by person, deal by deal, but probably, yeah. Just don't lead with it. If you're thinking about something to lead with, find their motivation. Generally speaking, buying a home is a pretty exciting thing. So ask them why they are thinking about making a purchase. Get in, ask good questions, be intentional about that. Now, on the seller side, I'm going to give you a little bit more detail. This is quite literally what I do at every listing appointment. I walk in the home. I ask them if I should take my shoes off every single time. Most of the time they say no. I ask them to give me the grand tour, show me around. I want to see the property how you see it, whatever pops into your mind as we're going around. I'd love to hear it. I'm taking notes. I might be taking pictures. I'm asking a whole lot of questions. Some of them are about the home. A lot of them are about them or that person. I want to learn more about them. I want to understand them, and it will help me be better at my job going down the line. Last thing I'll mention on that, when we're done with the tour, I ask them if we can sit down, and I ask this question in some form every single time. What have you loved most about your property? What will you miss most when you move? What is it about this property that had you purchase it in the first place? And then I just listen. Many things beyond that. Should we talk about price? Should we talk about commissions? Should we talk about marketing? Absolutely. You should talk about those things even if they don't ask, but you need to be intentional about what you ask and when you ask it. Now, number 2, I want to talk about being curious about the market. This one seems like it should be a no-brainer, but most agents don't do it. Now, if you are in the business, if you're doing some transactions, if you're around other agents that are also doing transactions, you should be naturally learning about the market. There is no better indicator about what's going on in our market than yours and others' experiences around you. For a long time, I was getting those auto drip emails and looking at the national headlines and trying to understand what's going on in my market. None of those things are really worth a darn. Can they give you some information? Yes. Can you or maybe should you pay attention to those things lightly? Yes. But there is no better indicator about what's going on than your experience and the experience of agents around you. Now, if you're brand new, you have no experience, and maybe you don't have agents around you. We need to change both of those things. The thing that you should do maybe weekly, if not more than that, is just review what's going on in the MLS. New listings, price reductions, cancels, solds, just understand and look for some trends. Give it a little thought, understand what's going on, and derive some intelligent thoughts about it. Also, if you are in an office, and obviously you are because you're new, you can't be doing this by yourself, be that person that reaches out and says, hey, does anybody want to meet monthly? or maybe weekly, and just talk about our experiences, talk about the market so that we're all better prepared. Once you're a real estate agent, the question that you will get the most when people find out what you do is, how's the market? And you need to have a positive and professional way to answer that. And if you have no clue about what's going on in the market, or you just haven't thought about it in 6 months, you're not going to be able to answer that question very well. Number three, I want us to be constantly improving, intentionally working through ways to just get better for ourselves, for our clients, and all the things that we do. Getting clients, closing transactions, working with past clients, all of it. Here at High Desert Realty, we talk, I'm sure it's more than this, but at least weekly on things that we can do to get better. It's usually very small ideas. I love it when those ideas come from people that haven't been here for very long. Usually those small ideas, at least if they're good ones, grow into something a little bit bigger and a little bit better. Do not get caught in the trap of this is always the way it's been done. This is how my principal broker taught me how to do this. Don't fall into that. Do better, be intentional. Let me give you an example. In 2011, I worked with a couple, Larry and Carol. I remember them very clearly for a couple of reasons. One, they bought a home in Terrebonne, but in 2011, it was like a $525,000 home. And I remember thinking, this is like the most high-end home ever. Far cry from 2026. I'm looking at the calendar there. The real reason I remember them is because early on in my career, a few things that I couldn't control well and a few things that I definitely could have controlled started going wrong in dominoes. Boom, 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 boom. I realized very quickly that I was not doing a good job, but instead of leaning into it and getting better, I shrunk a little bit. Now, I don't know about Larry, but I am positive that Carol hates me. If we saw each other on the street, I'm sure we would scatter a bit. Now, I literally have a document that I teach all of our new agents about. It is entitled Lessons I Learned from Larry and Carol. It is primarily about closing the deal in a really good way, but also leaning in when things get a little bit bad and also taking ownership of everything else that happens. A lot of the issues were loan related, and I am not a lender. And initially I thought to myself, well, I don't need to do anything with that. I needed to get a little bit more curious and a little bit more humble, lean in, learn a little bit more, help where I could, direct where I could, and I did none of that. And to be honest, the deal did close, but it was a catastrophic experience. I did actually run into Carol a few years later, and it was not overly pleasant. Now, I hope that's helpful. Stay curious. I want you to be continually learning, continually improving, asking better questions with your clients about the market, within your craft, within your job. It is essential that you do so. That's how you get better, deal after deal, month after month, year after year. Until next time, let's go get some clients and let's sell some homes.